Good morning and welcome back. Welcome to anyone who's new to this YogaX movement practice. It is such a pleasure to have you join me in this beautiful practice of yoga. For the past 3 months, we've been working with the Brahma viharas. The Brahma viharas are, they really predate yoga. They've been around in Hinduism, they permeate Buddhism, they permeate yoga. They are a way of being in the world with maturity, with responsibility, with an open heart, with compassion. And they are in some ways the outcome of cultivating positive values, cultivating ethical ways of being in the world, cultivating purposeful living. And when we move through the world from this place of these mature emotions, as they're sometimes translated, we tend to be more joyful, more helpful, and in a way, maybe more enlightened in our mind. And so they're beautiful practices to cultivate. And we started this journey through the Brahma Viharas 3 months ago by practicing with the concept of equanimity. From there, we moved to the concept of compassion. And then last month, we dove into loving kindness. And the remaining Brahma Vihara is joy. And it's not just joy as in being happy in a selfish sort of way, but it is sometimes translated as sympathetic joy, sometimes as empathic joy. But one of my favorite translations is appreciative joy. And when we think of joy as appreciative, we realize that joy actually has a huge component of gratitude. We feel joyful when we feel grateful. And so to me, the cultivation of joy and gratitude go hand in hand in the same way that we talked about compassion and mindfulness going hand in hand. Joy and gratitude just sort of feed each other. And so this month we will cultivate this Brahma Vihara of joy. We will also, toward the end of the month, because we have an extra Wednesday, start integrating all 4 of the Brahma Viharas and sort of maybe taking some meditations around all 4 of them. But today we're going to dedicate to appreciative joy, and we will start with joy that is directed to ourselves, and then we will slowly and gently move outward. So joy really accompanies us through all of the different layers of self, and you've heard me talk about those by now. There's our physical self, there's our emotional or energetic self, there's our mind self or mental self, the part of us that thinks and feels and interprets and perceives the world. Then there's our communal self, or our more pro-social self that's more concerned with family, roles, friends, and the greater world. And then from there, we sort of go outward. And so joy happens in all of these layers of self. And so today we will explore it very concretely in our bodies and in our breath, and maybe a little bit in our mind. And then we'll keep working in that way with joy from here on out. So for our opening centering, I invite you to either find a comfortable seat or to lie on your back, whichever feels more appropriate for you right now. If you're not sure, maybe you take a moment and just sort of look inward and sense into your body to see what your body might prefer. More relaxed supine position, or maybe a more alert seated position. And then make that choice. And find a comfortable way of being in your body in this moment. And you might see that I tend to wiggle a little bit when I settle myself into my meditative seat, or even if I'm lying on my back, I tend to wiggle a little bit. So I invite you to just wiggle yourself into whichever shape you've chosen for your body in this moment. And then if it feels appropriate for you, you might decide to close your eyes, or maybe you keep them downcast and your gaze focused on a spot. Either is fine. You can even move from one to the other, depending on what feels appropriate for you in this moment on a more emotional or energetic level. And as you cast your eyes downward or close them, you might notice that your focus draws inward more. Your senses are less drawn to the outer world. And as your senses become still, you might notice that even your mind begins to settle a little bit. Invite your body to settle and ground, inviting it to grow imaginary roots wherever it makes contact with the earth. Connecting you to the ground beneath you, connecting you to your greater collective of fellow human beings, all of whom ground in this moment into the same planet, connecting you to them and them to you. And then as the body settles, keep it in your awareness as you draw your attention to your breath. And invite your breath to settle and ground. Inviting the breath to settle and ground might mean inviting a soft breath. It might mean inviting a smooth breath. It might mean simply observing how the breath is traveling through you in this moment. Invite a sense of ease into the breath as it travels in and out of your body. And perhaps as you attend to the flow of the breath, you begin to notice that your mind too is capable of grounding. Of finding stillness, or perhaps at least finding an anchor in the grounding of the body and in the easefulness of the breath. And as these more tangible parts of you, your body, your breath, your emotions, and your mind, settle into this moment, as these tangible parts of you find a bit of ease and grounding, I invite you to notice a sense of gratitude that might emerge from your deeper, wiser self. Gratitude for this body that can settle into the earth. Gratitude and joy for this body that can settle and yet it can also move. Joy that you have this opportunity to have a body that can carry you through your life. When we begin to recognize the miraculous nature of the body, especially the body in conjunction with the breath, joy invites itself into the foreground. And so perhaps this joy you have for having a body that carries you through this moment is joined by a sense of joy for the breath that moves your body. The breath that animates your body. The breath that brings energy into your entire being, life force, and connection to a greater pulsation of energy around you. There's a joyful connection between your body and your breath. And when that connection becomes clear, you realize that it also links you to your own mind. And body and breath are unified. They invite the mind to become a part of this union. And you might notice that in that moment of uniting body, breath, and mind, you find another moment of gratitude, of joy. So as you take 2 or 3 more breaths here, I invite you to perhaps breathe in with the joy of gratitude, and then to breathe out with a sense of sharing that joy into your world. If you're seated, continue to breathe. If you're on your back, before you move, gently plan your journey first to your right side, and then ultimately to a seat. And once you've imagined that journey quite joyfully, go ahead and rise up and find a seat. And rest your hands either on your thighs or on your ankles, or if it feels appropriate, you might join your palms at your heart as you bow your head to heart center. And I invite you to joyfully look inward and to invite an intention to arise for your time on the mat today. An intention creates a greater purpose for the work you're doing on the mat. A purpose that then will carry into your larger life. And so joyfully receive whatever intention arises, and then with an inhalation, seal it into your heart. And with an exhalation, send it out into your community. And then gently release the hands. If the eyes were closed, gently blink them open and lift your focus. And let's come to standing. All right, so we will start in mountain pose, our sort of most basic foundation for our physical being. And just as you imagine roots growing into the earth when you were seated or lying down in your opening centering, I invite you to imagine growing roots through the corners of your feet. You might even move your feet a little bit just to really get a sense of, okay, where do they make contact with the earth? And then maybe lift the forward part of the foot and then lift the heel to sort of stretch the bottom of the foot long, and then release the foot down very intentionally, very mindfully. And then perhaps spread the toes apart. And just notice if you can do this with a sense of gratitude that you have feet that you can root into the earth, that you have feet that carry you, that you have toes that you can spread, and that you have heels that you can ground into. And then from here, I invite you to draw the kneecaps toward the hips and sort of joyfully receive the feedback from the muscles on your legs as they get strong here, as you draw the kneecaps up toward the hips. You could even lift the toes here and feel even more engagement of muscle on bone on your legs. And then let yourself fully experience that stability, that strength that is so pronounced in your legs right now. And then continue to let that energy draw upwards. So draw in the pelvic floor, draw in the low belly. Kind of imagine that you're zipping a zipper on a pair of jeans, and as you zip up, zip those muscles strong, drawing perhaps the belly button toward the spine to really feel this engagement in your core. It's almost like your hip bones are drawing closer toward each other in the front. Of course, they're not, but it feels like that. You're creating sort of this corset action that stabilizes your core. From that strength, I invite you to take the shoulders up toward the ears and then roll them back so that the shoulder blades plant on your back, moving down the back and maybe toward each other, almost like a little V shape on your back as the shoulder blades descend and stabilize the shoulder girdle here. And then from this very strong shoulder girdle, let the arms hang by your side, and then spread the fingers to feel the muscles in your hands and in your arms. They're supported by the shoulder girdle, and yet they have their own power. You could even open and close the hands for a moment to really feel the musculature in your arms. And then invite them to be by your side. Draw your attention upward through the spine, through the throat, and just imagine that something is tugging on the crown of your head, making you taller, whether in imagination or in reality, so that you feel this expansion, this extension through the spine, through the head. And soften your face. A beautiful way to soften the face is to bring a gentle smile to the face that draws up the corners of your mouth, but it also draws up the corners of your eyes. It's like a smile that's in your entire face. It's not just in your lips. That's a genuine smile. And that's actually a smile that involves the vagus nerve, which is a 10th of your cranial nerves, and several other cranial nerves above the vagus nerve, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, if you want to be particular about it. All those nerves have to work together to create this smile, and this smile that goes through your whole face is a smile that actually creates a sense of social engagement. And joy, gratitude require social engagement. They thrive on social engagement. We feel joy through social engagement. So feel this amazing mountain pose, and then with your next inhalation, lift your arms up, maybe having a sense of joy as you lift them. And with the exhalation, let them descend, but don't just let them drop to your side. Press them through some imaginary substance like peanut butter or almond butter or something you're not allergic to. And then just keep flowing, arms up and down, lifting yourself up joyfully and moving downward with gratitude, again, for this amazing body that you have, that you can move through space. We'll do this 2 more times using your own breath cycles. As I like to say, it's not a synchronized sport. So resist the temptation to adapt your breath speed to what you see on the screen. Maybe even close your eyes. Let the movement emerge from within. The next time your arms are down by your side, keep them there. And then perhaps draw them to your heart for a moment and bow your head in gratitude, feeling your own heartbeat and cultivating a sense of joy about the fact that you can feel your own heartbeat. Wow. Release the hands to your side. From here, we'll take a little bit of a side bend, but we'll do it a little bit differently than usual. So what you'll do is you'll bring your right arm up to the side and then out in front of you, and you take the side bend as that arm circles to your left and then comes around. So you're kind of making a big circle with the arm that guides you into a little side bend to the left. Let the heart become very open at the moment that the arm returns upward. You could even follow your hand with your gaze, adding a little bit of a neck circle if this feels okay for your neck. And let your breath guide the movement. Inhaling to become expansive and exhaling into the bend. 2 more times on this side. And when you have finished that second time on the right side, come to center, wiggle a little bit, and then move to the other side when you are ready. So lifting the left arm up and out, and then drawing it across the front of the body so that you're making a little side bend to the right, making those same circles. And if it feels okay for your neck, maybe letting the gaze follow your hand in a nice big circle. Feeling the breath expanding you out as the arm travels up. Feeling the breath letting go as the arm circles down. And maybe very joyfully receive the stretch here in the left side body. Maybe gratefully noticing that this very gentle and simple movement is creating some heat in your physical being. I'll do 2 more on this side. And then when your second one is done, come back to center. Maybe the hands come together at your heart so that you once again can tune into your own heartbeat. If you would like, you could even close your eyes and just very joyfully receive the biofeedback here from your heartbeat and from your breath that was created just by stretching and moving a little bit. And then release the hands. From here, your 2 blocks might be helpful as we continue to wake up our spine. So I will show this from the side so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. So with your next inhalation, you'll raise both arms up. And then notice if you can feel a little bit of a back bend here, high in the torso. You don't have to go extreme here. And let the heart be open. And then as you exhale, let the arms fly out to the side and swan dive from your hip joint. You can even bring the hands into the groins to come into this forward fold. And let the hands land on your blocks. And if you have blocks, use them for this first dive, just to protect the backs of the legs and to keep an open heart here. And then we'll flow here, again, using your breath cycle. So you don't have to follow my example. But what you will do is you will inhale and rise up into this tiny back bend. And you will exhale and dive forward into this forward fold, keeping the heart open for the first 2 or 3. But then experimenting in the forward fold with gently letting the head relax toward the floor and rounding into the fold before you reverse swan dive back up into the back bend. We'll take a couple more of these flows, again, using your own breath and your own discernment of what feels joyful here, both for the body and the breath. Maybe delighting in the fact that the body can execute this very complex movement fairly smoothly and so incredibly supported by the breath. One more after the one you just did. If the hands want to come all the way to the floor at this point, that is your decision to make. And at the end of the next reverse swan dive, we will all come up and draw the palms together once again at the heart to listen inward. To feel your own heartbeat, to connect to your own breath, to feel energy pulsing through your entire being. And you might notice as you take this moment of introspection that your heartbeat is calming, your breath is lengthening. Our body deserves enormous gratitude for its capacity to re-regulate itself after exertion. And sometimes we don't really give that the appreciation that it deserves. Release the hands to your side. And then once again, lift the arms up and swan dive forward. Hands to the blocks at whichever setting feels appropriate for you in this moment. You've warmed up the back body, that maybe you can lower the blocks from where you were in the prior movement, but maybe not. It doesn't really matter. From here, we will take a very gentle twist, and we'll start by bringing the right arm up and out to the side with the inhale. And then as you exhale, slide it through and bring it to the outside of the left leg and maybe look through the opening. This is like a standing thread the needle. And keep flowing, opening up to the right and twisting to the left, looking under your left armpit. Doing that a couple more times with your own breath. And maybe you can even have some fun with this, right? Joy is also about having fun, not just gratitude. And then the next time you've twisted, don't come all the way up, but instead bring the right hand back to the block so that we can now repeat this to the other side. So now the next time you inhale, open yourself up to the left with the breath. And with the exhalation, twist through, left hand to the outside of the right shin. Look under your right armpit. And flow with your own breath. Inhaling to expand, exhaling into the twist. Maybe as you inhale, you feel that sense of joy of being able to move your body with the breath. Two more times, and as you exhale, maybe connecting to that sense of gratitude. Let the next flow be your last one, and as you exhale down, bring the hands back to the blocks, and stay a moment in this half lift, connecting to your body in this different kind of shape. In this forward fold, and just notice what changes for you here compared to mountain pose. Which parts of you can you be more aware of? Which parts of you can you be grateful for? Maybe you're really feeling your hamstrings here. Press into the hands and really feel the engagement in the back body. You can always have the blocks high and even be on your fingertips here so that there is no strain in the low back. Take a breath here, joyfully breathing into an open heart. And if you would like, with your next exhalation, you can release into a deeper fold, making the belly empty and moving it toward the thighs. And just exploring, where can the body go here? Maybe it stays in the half lift, maybe it goes a little bit deeper. Joyfully and gratefully receive whatever shape emerges. With your inhalation, rise back up and walk the bricks to the top of your mat if they weren't already there. And then step the right foot to the inside of the right brick. And step the left foot to the back of the mat to come into a lunge. Take a moment to come to your fingertips so that you have this opportunity to have a very open heart here. You could even have your hands on the seat of a chair or on a countertop. And if your blocks aren't high enough, you could lift them onto a couple of books to bring them further away from the floor. The main thing is you want to have an open, joyful heart here so that you can receive this very beautiful stretch joyfully and gratefully. Take another breath in this lunge. And then straighten the forward knee somewhat. It doesn't have to become fully straight. And bring more weight into the hands that are on the bricks and step the right foot back to meet the left so that you're in a plank pose on your blocks. Remember that little movement we did with the shoulder blades at the beginning of class where they traveled down the back and toward each other, sort of making a little V? See if you can find that here in this plank pose on your blocks. You can always come to the knees if this is too much. It's a fairly long hold. And then with your next out breath, bring the left leg forward to come into the lunge on the other side. And just notice if there's a moment of gratitude of, oh yeah, that's easier. That's nice. And then find this lunge with new eyes, never assuming that the two sides evoke the same sensations in the body or in the breath or even the mind. And then receive that stretch with gratitude, maybe lifting up to the fingertips here, This will stabilize the core too, because it means you can't collapse into the pose. You have to sort of yield to this draw of gravity and resist it at the same time, making it a very dynamic posture. One more breath. And then bring the weight into the hands as you straighten the forward knee. Maybe all the way straight, maybe not. And step it back to meet the right. Or another plank pose here. Can you be joyful in this moment of challenge? Can you be joyful for the fact that your body can hold its shape and that you can still breathe here? And then with your next exhalation, release the knees to the floor. And you can move your bricks to the side. And come into a tabletop position. Aligning the wrists under the shoulders, the knees under the hips. And we're only doing that to then measure out where our hands will go, which is another hand length distance forward. So just walking the hands forward by one hand length to make like a little bit longer tabletop. From here, press into the hands, curl the toes under, and move the hips toward your heels. This is sort of like a child's pose, but not quite. So press into the hands in such a way that you feel like you're pushing the floor away from you, and you're making the distance between the hands and the hips longer. The hips push back, the hands push forward. Then from here, really ground those fingers into the earth and lift the hips behind you. Knees stay bent. So that now the forward part of your body is in a downward dog, but the legs are still bent quite a lot so that you can feel the grounding through the hands. And then draw in through the core. Make yourself stable in the same way that we did at the beginning of class in mountain pose. Maybe drawing the hip bones toward each other. Draw the pelvic floor in, belly button toward the spine. Imagine you're zipping up those pants. And then from that stability, see if you have any extension in the knees. The knees don't have to be straight, but have that movement towards straightness in the legs. And then receive whatever downward dog shape is available to you right now. Notice how your breath is receiving this pose. Downward facing dog is a beautiful forward fold. It is also a lovely half inversion. And so there is increased blood flow to your brain right now. You're also gaining a new perspective, sort of looking at life upside down. Yes, this is a long hold. You can always come to the knees and hold puppy's pose. And then with your next inhalation, bring the shoulders forward above the wrists and land back in plank pose. You can have the knees lifted or you can have the knees on the ground. Make that V shape with your shoulder girdle, with your shoulder blades, and draw the belly in. So don't make a banana shape here, make a nice, strong, sturdy plank. With your next inhalation, you'll come into down dog one more time. Move the hips first. Maybe bend the knees to begin with to really find that expansion in the upper body, the stability in the core, and then grounding through the hands and the feet. Noticing if there are places where your body wants to collapse or buckle and giving them some attention. Or maybe notice where you're kind of gripping or tensing and joyfully feeling into those places to see if they can soften a little bit. Then inhale into plank with your inhalation. Hold for one breath and then exhale all the way down to the floor, nice and smooth onto your belly. Once you're on your belly, invite your hands to come to the side of the chest. Wiggle your body into the earth. Really feel the contact between the forward part of the body, the front body, and your mat. And then lift the hands any amount. It might be 1/8 of an inch, just enough so that there's no weight in the hands, even though they're still by your side. And breathe here. And notice how the breath alone is moving you into a very gentle back bend as you inhale and releases you back toward the earth as you exhale. Do it a few times and just joyfully notice how this combination of breath and movement stimulates the body and captivates the mind. From here, if you would like to go a little bit farther, you can plant the hands on the ground. If you've had enough of that movement, you can actually come to resting, bringing one cheek to the floor and resting here for a moment. If you would like to explore a little bit further, then with your next inhalation, press into the hands at the same time as you breathe in and bring those shoulder blades onto your back to see how far up you can press this morning. It may not be far at all. Doesn't matter. The fact is you can joyfully decide what's appropriate. With your next exhalation, release yourself down as slowly as you press yourself up. We will do this 2 more times, but you don't have to. You can always skip, you can modify, or you can rest. Your body, your breath will give you the feedback about what's appropriate in this moment, and so receive that feedback gratefully and heed it. And if you haven't already done your 2, one last one, according to my breath cycle, but your own breath cycle probably guides you differently. And then once you've returned to the earth with the entire front body, take a moment to rest, maybe bringing the forehead onto your fingers as the hands slide in front of you. Take 2 breaths here. Once you've done your 2 breaths, bring the hands back to your side. Press yourself up into tabletop. From tabletop, walk your hand forward just a tiny bit and press yourself yet again into a downward dog. Just notice if this down dog feels any different than the initial down dog. Gratefully receive whatever the pose presents. And then with your next out breath, step the left foot forward. Let the right foot follow.
and come back into any version of forward fold. Maybe your hands on blocks, maybe you're in a half lift, hands on the shins, whatever your body chooses in this moment. Take a full round of breath here. And once you've taken at least one round of breath with your next inhalation, rise all the way back up. Bring the palms together above the head and slide the palms down to your heart so that we re-meet in mountain pose. And so this was a very joyful sun salute. It was kind of taken apart into bits and pieces. But if you put it all together, it actually was a sun salute. And I find sun salutes to be a beautiful expression of joy because they're a way of greeting ourselves, our bodies, our breath, our mind in every new moment. And so if you feel like you need to tap into joy, take a sun salute. So from here, we will once again inhale the arms up. And then exhale and swan dive forward. Inhale into a half lift. Exhale and fold. Step the right foot back. Step the left foot back, plank pose. Take a full breath in plank pose. And then lower yourself to the ground. Take any variation of cobra. Minimal pressing up, significant pressing up, whatever feels joyful to you in this moment. And then release back to the floor. Curl the toes under. You can come via tabletop into down dog. Feel your downward dog. Take a free breath here. And then take a lovely inhalation. With the exhalation that follows, step the right foot forward, lunge on the right side, left foot forward, forward fold, releasing down to the degree that's appropriate for your body and breath this morning. A breath, and then with your next inhalation, you will rise all the way up. Palms meet above the head and draw to your heart center where you will take a breath or two. Joyfully receiving this moment. Joyfully receiving the activation of your breath. Joyfully receiving whatever sensations arise in the body. And perhaps even joyfully receiving whatever commentary the mind might have. With your next exhalation, release the hands down and then inhale them up. Exhale into a swan dive. Forward fold of any degree, maybe with blocks, maybe without. Step the left foot back, lunge. Step the right foot back, plank. Take a breath in plank. And then take an inhalation, and with the exhalation, lower yourself to the floor. And lift yourself up into your version of cobra this morning. Release with an exhalation. And then with an inhalation, transition maybe through tabletop into down dog. For 2 or so breaths, depending on your breath cycle, my breath cycle, we may all breathe a different number of breaths. Joyfully receive the breath. Joyfully receive the feedback from your body. And this time, as we exhale, we will bring the knees to the ground and come to a seat on our heels. Slide the hips to one side, bring the legs out in front of you. And if you're at the back of your mat, like I ended up at the back of my mat, scoot yourself forward. And then bring the arms out in front. And transition yourself onto your back, either by slowly moving down one vertebra at a time, or if you would like, you can lower yourself onto the elbows and then down. So choose your version of coming into your preamble to your resting pose. Before you release into Shavasana. So maybe your body likes some windshield wipers right now. Maybe it would like some twisting or some leg circles or a happy baby. Sort of just allow your intuition to give you feedback about what is most appropriate for your body and breath in this moment, to make last little wiggles and movements to prepare yourself for releasing into Shavasana. I'm seeing lots of beautiful variations. That's really lovely. Such a joyful way of attending mindfully and gratefully, as well as compassionately, to body, breath, and mind. And then when you feel ready, release yourself into your version of Shavasana, maybe bringing a blanket under your head, maybe bringing a rolled mat or a rolled blanket under the knees, especially if your low back tends to be tweaked, that might be nice. Don't limit yourself to a flat position on the floor. Like I said, either lifting the head or the knees, or you could even lift your entire legs by coming to the wall and taking a leg up the wall, Shavasana, or bringing the calves to the seat of a chair. Be creative here to find a nice expression of ease. And once you have found your Shavasana position, I invite you to close your eyes if you didn't already, or to cast them downward. To return to your inner focus, your meditative focus at first. This meditative spaciousness, that's a beautiful mixture of relaxation and alertness. And for a moment, just be in that spacious awareness. Without drawing attention to any part of you, just become aware of all of you. Body, breath, mind, intuition, community is all there in the background. And then invite even that awareness to fade. As you let go of your body, you let go of your breath, you let go of your mind. You even let go of your surroundings as you move into a few moments of stillness.
Gently return your attention to your body, wiggling your physical being, awake and alert. And gently bring your attention to your breath. Inhaling and exhaling mindfully, attentively for a few rounds of breath. And finally, bringing your attention to your mind and using your mental powers to plot a strategy for moving your body into a seat. And when you feel energetically ready to do so, go ahead and make that journey so that we can all meet in a seat together. Once you've arrived in a seat, your palms can be on your thighs, either facing down or up, depending on whether you're planning to be more inward looking or outward looking for the rest of your day, or your palms can come together at your heart as you bow your head to heart center. I invite you to look inward yet again and to joyfully receive the wisdom that comes from your body, to joyfully receive the emotions and the energy that come from your breath. And to look inward to joyfully receive all the feedback that you get throughout the day from your mind. When you're joyfully attentive to body, breath, and mind, you create the space for your own intuition to guide your life with wisdom and discernment. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful practice of yoga with me. It's an honor and it's a pleasure. Take really good care. Thank you so much.